Bird, 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 bird. Get him. Yeah! Ron Babe was right. Ron Babe was right.
I'm feeling spry. Hey, everybody. It's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. Oh, my God. It's the 28th of August. It's Sunday night. Just got back a few hours ago from Wisconsin. I ran Tagus in his natural ability test, so I know a lot of you go on Instagram and Facebook, but certainly not all of you, so I thought I'd update you. I went up Friday to get him acclimated. I wanted him to see the field and the water he was going to swim at and things like that. And, it felt pretty good going in, but he's been running in his home grounds, and you never know. Dog sees a different field. He can act different, run different, do anything different. Because come test day, it's test day. You think you know what your dog's going to do, but it doesn't always pan out that way. Well, my expectations were exceeded. So, he got 112 points in a prize won. I'll tell you, though, it was not easy because I had my moments. First of all, it's been a long time since I ran anybody else's dog in a breeding from a dog I purchased. For the most part, I bred some of my own wire hairs, had short hairs before that, the Broncos. I imported a couple of dogs, but, that wasn't like they were trying to get, the database from NAV to they were from overseas. So anyway, I was a little nervous. I was nervous just like when I used to cross my fingers when somebody ran one of my puppies in a test. So the day before, there was a Friday test, and I was there for the Saturday test, and they brought a pheasant back in the crate that was kind of injured and didn't make a good tracking bird earlier in the day. And I was blessed to be at a good friend's place, the Harmeyer's Crystal Creek Kennels up in Wisconsin. And I just love going there because it's like going to family. It's kind of like shopping at W Hunting Supply. But anyway, we'll wait for the commercials. Anyway, they had an extra bird left over, and they said, "You want it?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to have it," because I've been working on his. I've seen him track, but not ever set up an actual NAVDA track where we pluck some feathers and we release the bird and try to get it to run away. I've seen him track enough where I'm like, I know this dog's got track in him. I know he inherited it. And so anyway, I had a pheasant. I went off into this neighboring hayfield, set up a track, and I didn't get a track out of my dog. You talk about, I used to go through these tests and just kind of laugh. I'm like, it's my own dog. If I don't get it, I don't get it. Worry more about other people's dogs with their scores than my own. And I was a little nervous. I said, I think I turned this dog into a searching machine, which most puppies are searching machines. They're just not all tracking machines. But he wanted to go off into a search, and I thought for sure he would have found that pheasant. I was genuinely nervous. But then, when I saw the tracking field, and I heard about this on Friday, and for those of you who don't follow this kind of hunt testing stuff, so a tracking field for this portion of a puppy's test is they take a pheasant and they pull the wing feathers from one wing, pull some breath feathers out, put it on the ground, put the bird down, and try to get it to run away. And most pheasants, because they don't like people and they don't like being handled, they start running through the field, and they go find a place to hide. Whether it's a ditch or a cattail line or a weed line, they want to get out of sight. And then we call the dog in from, depending on where they hide you, so they don't want the dog to see this. You bring the dog in and, you show them the feather pile, you get them interested, you let them go. And, a lot of dogs will break into a search. They want to rely on their search. They know there's something there. It smells like that, but they like to rely on their search. Their search gene, if we can call it that, traits are much stronger than their tracking. And a really well-balanced dog, it should be pretty even. They should be able to really pay attention to a track and really be able to pay attention to a field. Anyway, I didn't see any real tracking. I mean, I could have talked myself into it, but I said, oh, my gosh, I got a little monster on my hands. He wants to go search. Well, he proved me wrong, and in the field that the Wisconsin chapter had for the track was they should have took a video of it, and they should have said, when you're running a test, you find a field that looks like this, because the right field certainly gives the dog not the advantage, but the way they tell us to set these fields up in the judge's handbook, to what to look for in a field. And it's tough sometimes. Wrong time of year, fields are cut, they're hayed. Sometimes they're just not there. But anyway, thank you to Wisconsin chapter for putting on a test with fantastic grounds that help show the dog in a good light. And old Tagus, that's Nick Rufus of Tagus, got all fours in his day with a 112 prize one. The only thing you can get with all fours is a prize one. 112 prize one for old Tagus. And Tagus got to ride in the front seat on the way home, and I thought about what a stupid move that was. I said, I'm like all proud of you, and I'm talking to him. He's just like, shut up, quit talking to me. He's just looking out the window. But it was a little hot on the way home, and I wanted to put him up in the air conditioning. I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to hit some dead stop traffic. He's going to slam into the dashboard. The airbag will deploy. He's under 80 pounds, so the airbag will kill him. I'm like, what was I thinking? That was a dumb move. Don't do that. Don't put your dog in the front seat of a car. I wouldn't do that. The dog just earned himself a place at the table for the next 12, 13, 14 years. And anyway, we're going to see where the adventure takes us. Next year, he'll get some more training. This year, it's going to be all hunting and a little bit of recall training. Trust me, he needs some recall. Them birds turned him on. It's like every bird, if he couldn't find it, he had a hard time coming back into the field. He did. But there's a lot of dogs that go out there, they chase a chucker, the chucker gets into some grass, they don't quite mark it. And then they just kind of work their way back in the field. Okay, let's go find another one. That's what you feel good. And his last bird, now he pointed like unbelievable, but his last bird was a bump where he was running one direction and the wind was going another direction, or the wind was going with him, and he had no opportunity to smell a bird, and the bird just popped. And he thought he should get that bird too, but that bird was a healthy bird. They had some darn good, healthy flying chuckers, I can tell you that. And, we lost him for a couple minutes, but he came back. We used the old hat trick and the water bottle trick, threw things up in the air so he could see something falling. He was thinking, oh, there's the bird. I snagged him up. We got him some water. We calmed him down. And the judges said, all right, Ron, your search is over. We'll see you at the water in the tracking field. Good luck. And I felt pretty good walking out of there. Anyway, I felt almost as good as I did wearing my Pike gear all weekend. Yeah, I was doing some extra video content, and I certainly want everybody to see it. And I saw one of my judge buddies, Rick Kildow, and another fella, and I can't remember his name. I said, look at you two. Did you know I was coming because you're wearing Pike gear pants? Yeah, they were both wearing the Kiowa pants. They absolutely love them. So if that, not just myself as a testimonial, there's a couple of hardcore NAVDA guys that are buying hard, and they don't know. I mean, they don't live by me. It's not like I got them a deal on these things. I was just, look at you, Pike gear pants. So there, and my Patreon patrons, that was a fun Zoom room last week. I'm going to release that trivia game. I was going to get it released in August, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. I'll get it released when I get to Virginia on September 1st or 2nd. And but anyway, it was fun. We had our Zoom room. And I let the people who come to the Zoom room on Thursdays, I let them pop in early without video, and they were able to listen and watch the Hunting Dog Podcast trivia. And I won't tell you the winner's name, but yeah. And we had a diverse panel. Wasn't just a bunch of guys, okay? Oh yeah. And I'll tell you who the winner is. Well, you'll find out who the winner is when this episode comes up. All right. Anyway. Onyx, Boss shot shells. I just picked. That was a really bad one, wasn't it? We're at 9 minutes. I'm going to have to just, I apologize. I'm going to have to just speed through this thing. You know what Onyx is. You know you need it. Don't just get Onyx, okay? There's more. We just talked to Ben 4 days ago, and he's our Onyx contact. And they've got some stuff. They got more stuff. They never stop thinking of stuff. I went down to the Boss Shot Shell Factory store on Friday on my way to Wisconsin, and I needed a bigger shopping cart. I'm telling you, they even got, I mean, they've just got some cool clothing. So if you're anywhere near Stevensville, Michigan, you ought to stop in there. You can pick up your shells for the season, but you ought to see some of the gear they got, some of the shirts and the hoodies and the hats. They've got Tom Bebke. If you don't know what that is, then you couldn't afford a Tom Bebke, I can't say it, Benke jacket. They got hats made by, designed by him. They've got really nice, solid winter cuddle up by the fire sweatshirts. And you know how cool all their logos are. And how cool, that's all I'm going to be shooting at Doves. I'll be shooting Boss shot shells. Waltons, we'll be seasoning the Doves with Walton spices. We'll be transporting the dogs in gunner kennels and food in the food crate. And you know what the food will be. It'll be Purina. I did an interview with Greg Blair when I was down in Wisconsin, or up in Wisconsin, and that'll be coming out in a week or two. And you can hear all about that. But until then, put your Purina food in a gunner food crate, especially if you only have one dog. That stuff comes out fresh as a daisy. It is a truly airtight locker for your food. I call it a locker. I don't know why I call it a locker. It's a tote. It kind of looks like a dog kennel. My Garmin InReach, I realized my Garmin InReach wasn't working. Couldn't charge it. They took care of me. They got me another one out. I did pay for next day. I wanted to have it. I didn't need it for this week, but a good friend of mine is going elk hunting, and he wanted to use it. And I want to have it when I'm in North Dakota. If I'm out on a run by myself, if I need to hit help, if I need to use that InReach for help, I'll have it. You should think about that too, especially if you're old like me and you fall down a lot. And a lot of this stuff you can get from where? W Hunting Supply. And you can store it where? In your decked drawer system. You've got to be deck curious by now. A guy walked up to me the other day, and his wife. He says, "Man, that's a nice deck. Man, I'm thinking about one of them. Honey, you think about one of them? What? What do you mean? His decked? No, I'm not thinking about his decked." Oh, that was terrible, Ron. Oh, my freaking God. Anyway, that was from an old, what they call Blue Collar Comedy Tour thing. Anyway, if you haven't been deck curious, get decked. And then when you get the deck, get the shotgun holder, because my Weatherby shotguns are now in my right deck drawer. And it looks pretty. I've been running down the roads, gravel roads, just like everything they build. Them guns stayed in them holders. They're padded. They fit in there. They're engineered. That's all I can tell you. Just like Purina Pro Plant's engineered. Just like Canine Athlete is engineered. But I mean engineered by scientists who take care of our dogs and our bodies. We do. And this whole podcast is brought to you by the Upland Institute of America, where you can be a better trainer. This is a question and answer episode. We had a lot of questions. We parsed them into everything we could squeeze in. If you didn't hear your question answered, it's probably because we got so many questions. But if you didn't hear something that helps you solve your problem with Justin's when E.F. Hutton talks tempo when he's discussing a dog training problem, write me back and just say, "Ron, could you get this one in the next queue?" Whenever you do it, if it's going to be this winter, it's just a question. I just got to have Justin's opinion on it. But if that's not your problem, you just want a solid training system. I don't care if it's train retrieve or advanced dog work. If you've already got that dog that started and you want to do a little polish, or the foundations and fundamentals, or the complete course, which is all three of them. I know it's hunting season, but I know some of you have puppies. Do not, when you have a resource like this, do not. The risk of not working and training your dog properly and putting those foundation blocks under him, even if it's hunting season and even if he's too young to hunt, and you got your older dog, and you're like, yeah, I'm going hunting. Honey, watch the dog. You got to put that's why we call it foundation and fundamentals. If you put that under your puppy, you are going to have a solid hunting dog. Unless, of course, the dog is just, but that's rare these days. There's so many good dogs out there. And they needed a place to go for one concise unit of how to take my dog from 8 weeks to 8 different states of hunting. How's that? Pretty good. All right, here we go. Me and Justin. Hey, everybody, it's Ron Bain with the Hunting Dog Podcast. It has been too long since I did one of these. This is going to be a question and answer with my buddy Justin McGrail. We found a little time on the weekend to... Justin, how'd you find time this time of year? I should have asked you that. This is your busy time.
Home stretch. They're going home by the day, so each day I get a little bit extra wiggle room in my days.
It's the opposite. You don't have to keep chugging right to the day you leave for the West.
I start to kind of day by day. They go home, and there's nobody coming in behind them. You
dance a little jig?
Getting one day at a time, getting closer.
But, that's not why I'm not hearing barking, because I don't usually hear barking when I'm here anyway.
Well, this is the kind of... They kind of chill out midday back there.
Do they?
There's not a lot of activity, so yeah.
So, Justin, I stuck a bunch of inquiries out for listeners, and, we got a real varied bunch of questions here. And
Good.
There's a few of them that I can't wait to hear your answer, because when I filter these, I'm like, I think I could help the guy. And then I'm familiar with your answer, or I've heard you say them enough times on the podcast. Yeah. There's a couple of them here. I'm like, I can't wait to see where you're going with these. But we're going to start out with this one here. It says, hi, Ron, I've got a 6-month-old female German wire hair and a 10-year-old male German wire hair. Because of aggression issues with the male, we keep them separate at all times. If one dog is out, the other is in the kennel. The issue we have is when we let the male to go outside, the female throws a literal shit fit. She cries, barks, howls, jumps in her kennel, bites at the kennel until we let her out. She only does this when we let the male out. She's fine alone in her kennel. But if both are in the kennel and we let the male out, she freaks out. Due to extenuating circumstances, which he didn't explain to me what extenuating was in this email, we didn't get her until she was 12 weeks old. Before we got her, she was with several other dogs, male and female, and got to play and run with them daily. Do you or Justin have any suggestions how to stop or reduce this behavior? We've tried waiting until she's settled down and quiet, but that hasn't worked. Thanks, Dave Brain.
Okay. So, the root of this problem is that he can't let them both out. He mentions aggression issues. So there must be something with the old male that they do not trust him letting them both out.
Right.
Which is unfortunate. That's going to be an obstacle. It's a dog management issue.
Right. It's not like you can do a game with the two of them now to make something happen. You have to.
So that's his cross to bear, but any 10-year-old dog that attacks a 6-month-old puppy that's got issues, right?
Right.
And so that's not the root of the question. But when he says crate or kennel run is what I'm wondering. But he says jumping around in the kennel. So that leads me to believe it might be a kennel run.
I would take it as that.
Yeah. Barking, biting at that, going nuts.
Because if it was just a kennel, portable kennel, I would put the two of them in two different...
Exactly. So she's not a party to seeing that happen.
Yeah.
It's visually triggered.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's had this pup for a while, so for 4 months? 3 months.
Yeah.
He got it at 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
okay.
6 months
and it's 6 months now. You would expect to see acceptance of that if they've been doing this regularly. And it doesn't sound like it's getting better.
Right.
I don't think it's out of line to maybe implement a bark collar if that dog is carrying on, you've given this dog 3 months to go, he goes out
To
sometimes
settle
and
in.
you don't. That'll
Yeah.
settle that dog right down. And they have really good ones now that are super adjustable.
Right.
Kind of snap her out of that, mindset
Right.
that I'm going to throw a temper tantrum and don't let her out when she's doing that.
Right.
He can't let her out until he puts the mail away. So
But then-
this is just a fact of life until
Yeah.
the mail is gone.
Yeah.
And, they're all different. Part of that is in that dog's wiring, and I don't believe it has anything to do with what she experienced between 8 and 12 weeks before he got her.
Right.
No, this is in that dog's wiring.
Yeah. You see that with some dogs that come here, right?
Yeah.
They don't adjust to the new environment.
Accept those things.
Yeah, they don't accept it. Where a lot of dogs take them a day or two, are like, oh, I guess I'm not going to see Justin until 4 in the afternoon.
And that's in their mind, which
Yeah.
is the genetic soup that we lean on.
Yeah.
That kind of, not everything these dogs do and are is because of our outside influence.
No.
We can't shoulder the burden for everything. But we have to deal with everything.
Yeah.
That they are.
It's like having an exchange student with no knowledge of their language and just having to figure out what do they like to eat for dinner.
So
how do we get this dog to?
If you're seeing zero improvement,
Right.
you want to maybe try and do something outside of, I'm going to put a bark collar on this dog and attempt to settle it when it's flipping out. I would potentially maybe look at changing my housing arrangements for these dogs and figure out, a lot of times it's not a training solution that's the answer. It's a management solution. You're not going to command a dog out of that mindset.
Right.
You can try and flood it with that situation and hope it accepts it and acclimates it. Again, that requires a certain kind of mindset in a dog. And if that mindset isn't there, if you realize I can't train this out of this dog, you got to find out a different way
to manage the
situation. Right. What do I change? In this whole setup that can be an alternate path to get us around having to deal with it, because that gets old. That's why he wrote. His dog's 6 months old. And he's tired of it.
Right.
He would like that to change.
But try the bark collar. See if there's a difference.
If he wants to, and see if that'll settle that dog down. But also, I would look at maybe some different housing arrangements, structure around the home.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he just doesn't want to take a chance on what this 10-year-old may or may not do with that other. Is he assuming the worst, or was there an incident?
Because of aggression issues, that sounds like past tense to me. So I think he just doesn't want to trust that male. Which, I'm glad he's...
It's his dog. He knows it, right?
Exactly. Well, that's a tough one. The point I took away from that is it's not always a training issue.
No.
It's a management issue.
Sometimes. Yeah. You can't change every behavior with command training, and that's what a lot of people are trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It almost, if something worked like that, it would be because the dog said, "Oh my God, I just got a little nick for acting the way I always do," and dog's really self-training itself, right? It's not. You can't go up there and convince this dog to change its behavior. Right. All right. Axel wrote, "I have a 6-month-old Drott." We're on the same kind of thread here. I have a 6-month-old Drott who absolutely goes bonkers when it's time to get him out of his crate in the house or the truck kennel. I stand next to his crate, give him a down command until he calms down somewhat, and then open the door slowly. It works somewhat, but when I release him, it's like an explosion. How do I get him to calm down more?
Same thing, essentially. I mean, you're not going to command the dog out of being excited. You can attempt to... He should be making him wait to be released, which it sounds like he is.
Right.
But on that release, the dog is being who he is, which is this freight train of a dog. Okay? Now, here's where some training comes into play is you can condition dogs that when you put your hands on them, not to fight you.
Right.
Okay? Up on a training table.
That calming touch.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, out of the crate, you can be excited, but when I have you by the collar, you give. That goes into early introduction to a stakeout. With this pup, I'd be all over a tie-out stake.
Yeah, especially
and
6
calming
months old.
touched up, up on a table, right?
Yep.
So those two things. When you're restrained by your collar, you give.
Right.
When I put my hands on you and touch you, settle.
Right.
Focus, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to go from a ball of fire 6-month-old to this
Wait to be released, calm golden
dopey
retriever.
kind of, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you should be able to improve the dog, and 6 months is very, very young. They're
Right.
all excited at that age.
Right.
But the two proactive things I'd recommend, tie
Right.
out stake and that calming touch work up
Right.
on a table, teaching that dog to give itself to you.
Yeah. This is a sidebar question, but when you talked about, waiting to be released at the kennel and calming touch and tie out stake, this is a Ron personal question, because I've watched you here for years now, manners at the door, waiting to go in, waiting to come out. I did that with Tagus, to the point where sometimes he didn't follow the other dogs out because I didn't say okay. Mm-hmm. Now, and I'm not sounding like that guy who's going to have a bumper sticker says my student's an honor roll student. But, I closed that door a couple times. Mm-hmm. And I did not hit him in the nose hard. It was just a bump. He went back, and the second time I used the word okay, he associated okay. Mm-hmm. I think I got lucky, mm-hmm. but can you do that with every dog? Or is there like that one when you said freight train, it made me think like, boy, I don't know. Can you bump a freight train in the nose?
You can teach him to wait to be released, but upon release, he's going to kind of be who he is.
Still going to be who he is.
Right.
So some of this is the dog's personality.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Because I was shocked. I was like, I either should have been doing this forever, or I got very lucky with this where, he'll follow the other dogs out and stop at the door. And the other three are running. He's looking at me. I'm like, I forgot to say okay. So, all right. Evan writes, Ron and Justin, how would you introduce a very young, under 6 months puppy to the lead to create good foundation for training to heel? I'm getting a Deutsch Drahthaar in November. I'm glad this guy's writing. He's writing early.
Yeah,
he's getting it in November, and plan on testing in the JGHV system. So, for people who don't know, that's the German system of versatile hunting testing. And they're very big on manners. They literally look at you and your dog while you're at the truck, while you're walking up to the judges. So I think he's a little concerned about, just healing already ahead of time. So what is a good way to introduce an under 6 month puppy to the lead to create good foundation for healing? Can I guess first one? Dragging a check card?
Well, that's
a little beginner, right? A little puppy check card?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They all drag puppy check cords on their nature walks, mm-hmm. and then I start picking them up on the way back in.
Right.
And just lead them back into the truck or home or kennel or wherever you're running
It's
them.
not even related to in and out of the door. It's just the end of the walk mm-hmm. kind of
mm-hmm.
a thing. Yeah.
Yep. The little shorty puppy cords.
Mm-hmm.
And then that tie-out stake where they're learning to give to their ID collar as a point of contact, that not to fight.
Right.
I think under 6 months, there should be no expectations of we're going to dive right into this perfect heel.
No.
These dogs, and I hope he's been to these tests. I'm shocked at how many people. I'm going to do this. Have you been to one? No.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how do you know you want to do that? That's interesting to you.
Yeah.
But to know what to expect.
Right.
And I cannot emphasize this enough. The dogs that you go see that do that, you go, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. Wow, those dogs are good. Okay? That dog is 4 years old. You cannot train your 6 month-old to act like a 4-year-old dog, despite how bad you want it right now. Right. That guy has spent years getting to that point. Part of it is the natural maturation of the dog and his absorbing his life experiences.
How many times was he?
And all of our training efforts being applied gradually over a long time.
Yeah.
But if he thinks I get it. I appreciate, him having a plan and everything. But I hear it. It's getting worse every summer. Between 4 and 5 months, that's when my phone starts ringing. And they want recall training and e-collar introduction. Oh, wait a minute. Start asking some questions.
Right.
That's the natural age when they start to outgrow their yard at home and want to explore.
Right.
Okay? The answer is not to shock them. The answer is you need a fence.
Right.
That's what you need. You don't need to go hollering at your dog and calling back to you every time he goes to explore his environment and using your e-collar. You need a fence.
Yeah.
That's, again, an example of a management solution, not a training solution.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to teach your dog to reliably recall. You have no right to expect that of a dog at 5 months old.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, I know people do it. People, you see it. But that doesn't mean that's going to be the answer that we're going to give a fella who doesn't have his puppy yet.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, I don't want to say in Evan's defense, but I know you're not that familiar with the versatile testing systems. One of the, this is not an anti-versatile testing system thing, but in some breed clubs, and I believe in this one, they do a spring-fall test. It's mandatory, right? And if he's at just the wrong age, like if he's at 6 months, they're going to consider him puppy. Now, if that dog was born 6 months earlier, he'd still be tested in the spring at 11 months.
Yeah.
That's a big range. So yeah, I would.
It is a perfect heel expected at 6 months old?
No, but
okay.
But it's almost like they put blinders onto the age of the dog. This is your spring test. Show us what you got.
Yeah.
And there's a certain amount of manners expected. So I don't think they'd have as close to a perfect as possible. I would hope not.
At 6 months.
At 6 months.
Seems a little unreasonable to me.
Right.
It's not unreasonable to have some decent leash manners, but you shouldn't expect this bomb-proof heel in the presence of distractions. Nor would I recommend trying to train for it. But
I do recognize the name. The next time he's on a Zoom room, I'm going to ask him.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, tie-out stake, check cord, puppy cord.
Yep.
Get him used to this so it's not a foreign.
Yeah, and I start putting some leash, as these dogs get bigger and stronger, I'm not letting them yank my arms out of my socket. My shoulders are already bad enough as is. I can't handle that anymore. But I don't expect them to walk calmly and mannerly, perfectly heel in the presence of distractions as puppies. I feel like that's an unattainable goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's toughy. Here is a question for Justin in regards to steadiness. If the dog moves at the flush or shot, do you find any benefit with picking up the dog and putting it back, or do you consider it fine as long as you're able to stop the dog? The reason I ask is it's a pain to pick up and put back a dog when working a dog on grouse and woodcock.
Yeah, I'm glad somebody finally asked this.
Because you've mentioned this before. I've heard you.
Yeah, you think it's a pain in the woods. Ask a chucker hunter if he's going to bring his dog back where he was. Nope.
Back up the hill backwards?
Scrambling in the rocks.
Yeah.
No, okay, so... But you hear this a lot. You got to pick them up, put them back where they were.
I see it.
You see it all the time.
All the time.
So this is a great question. I've done it both ways. In summertime training, if you want to do it, it's very easy to do it. I've done it both ways. I've not seen any difference in the rate of a dog accepting steadiness. Yes, dogs are very spatially aware. They know, but when that dog moves, when we're teaching steadiness, and so we've got them woe broke. Hopefully also collar conditioned to reinforce woe in these situations. So when that dog goes, the bird is obviously not shot. Whoa, tap, tap, get that dog stopped. I've found that repetition of that and that movement gets less and less and less and less. Without touching them, without bringing them back there. So and then years ago when I used to occasionally pick them up and bring them back there, those dogs did not steady any better. It didn't happen any faster. Wasn't any more reliable or solid and concrete in the dogs. So I quit doing it. Now, the one thing I'll say, and this is one thing everybody should be aware of, if you do choose to pick them up and bring them back, it needs to be completely emotionless, okay? And here's what happens, right? I can see the dogs that were grabbed and handled roughly and brought back in their
tail and collar,
in their demeanor, or even after. Okay, they got the point, but when you come near them, I watch them just wilt, right?
Because they're like,
as you go, oh, is he going to do that, right? No. So if you do choose to pick a dog up and bring him back, don't be Mr. Mean about it. I see some people, they don't have control of their emotions when they're training.
Right.
So when they do grab that dog, they let that
You're
get
really
the best
confusing
of
the
them.
dog.
You're confusing. Well,
Yeah.
my hands
scaring it.
my hands don't ever touch a dog in a way that's not really pleasant to them. For the most part,
Yeah,
you know,
I've watched
if I
you.
do that,
Yeah.
if I do want to do something with a dog, I don't want my hands on a dog to ever mean
that.
anything bad to
Yeah.
that dog. And that's where you see those dogs kind of get funky a little bit,
Right.
or their style. You can impact their style on point by
Right.
handling a dog like that.
Right.
But the true, thoroughly woe-broke dog that's collar conditioned, you don't have to touch him.
Right.
You don't have to touch them. That little e-collar conditioning, it's just
let
like
'em-
having a check cord on them.
Let them know
Just
that
like stopping
they
them.
weren't supposed to move.
Yep.
And that's, and you know, I've seen that too. I can't, and I know I did it back when I had Zygon. He was 85 pounds, and I was 20 years younger. I mean, that's just a silly thing to do with an 80-pound dog. But I mean, here's the thing that I think of just in a almost, like, if you want to know why it's probably not good. You mentioned chucker hunting. Well, of course, that's not going to work.
It's not practical in the real world.
It's not practical in the real world.
No, grouse woods,
and even if it did, it's like, okay, what about the dog that? Yeah, I got a feeling he's talking about the dog that took a step and he wants to replace him. Mm-mm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But if it's even more than that, where are you carrying the dog to?
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to watch three things. You got a gunner. You got a, you know, how are you going to get this dog back to where his 4 feet were when he decided to move to? I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, and the couple steps will go away. And if you're repeatedly getting this long distance of travel before you can stop them, you need to back up in the steadiness process.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and you said something at the beginning. He's talking about steadiness to flush and shot. Mm-hmm. So this dog should be steady to wild or bumps. He should be wobo completely in the field.
Yeah.
I mean, that could solve a whole lot of this stuff later on.
Sure.
I mean, getting them so proof that this is one for the listeners and one for me. Have you ever paid attention to the shortest amount of time it took you to study a dog? Did you ever have one to stick out, or is it always about? Like one that was just like.
You know, I hate.
I don't want to put that thought in someone's head.
Yeah.
I mean, is it usually about the same amount of work, is what I'm guessing?
Not really. You know, if you have a dog with. Some dogs want to point them more than they want to get them.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
So the dogs that really have this innate desire for feathers in their mouth.
Right.
And especially if they've had some success running down.
A chucker, whatever.
Yeah. Over tame birds. Okay,
Right.
those are going to take a little more convincing that, no, you really should just stand there when these birds get up in front of you. Dogs that have had nothing but what I say are good bird contacts, right? Get a little too close to them, they're up,
Fly
and
out
they're
of
gone.
life.
They're absolutely gone.
Yeah.
They've been allowed to chase as puppies to no avail. It's never been anything in it for them.
Right.
And they have a lot of pointing instinct.
Right.
And they are smart dogs with a balanced mind, far more willing to stand there. And it's just fresh in my mind because I just saw this dog do this yesterday. This dog only has yard work woe, okay? It's not here. We're not doing any formal steadiness,
Right.
okay? However, this gal's here at the right time of year. There's a lot of pre-release birds out there right now. It's had a lot of good bird contact. Just yesterday, she's on point. I walk in, a covey of quail gets up and flies out across in front of her, and she just jerked her head and watched them. And right away I went, oh, those weren't her birds. And I kept walking, and she had a couple of young pheasants that she was pointing.
Oh.
Okay. So that's a dog with a lot of point and a balanced mind.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not going to go chase those.
Right.
I got a nose full of birds right here.
Yeah.
That's in her genetic makeup. And then those good genes and that good mind were put in good birds.
In good birds.
If you, those three things, right?
Yeah.
You can give a dog
You could have
those
screwed
things.
it up with a bad one of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you can get that combination
Right.
and show them enough good birds,
it
just works out.
Yeah. It's just not that hard to do.
It's just not that hard, right? So after this hunting season, when we do go to steady this dog, it's going to be fun and it's going to be easy. for the dog and for me and the owner.
The dog's
going to
get it.
Yeah.
And then he's going to get his paycheck.
Yeah.
And
Every
he's like,
time I run this dog, I tilt a little more towards. God, I kind of wish this one was mine.
That's got to happen a couple times a year.
It does. It does.
All right. Mike Franklin writes. Well, I apologize. It's long. If you need to shorten it, I should be reading all that. All right. Let's see if we can make some sense of this. I recently bought a started dog, a German Wirehair Pointer. This is the first dog I haven't had and trained since it was a puppy. He didn't say how old of a started dog, but what would you guess? A year as a started dog? Year and a half?
Yeah.
Or did he say that later on? All right. The dog came from an experienced handler trailer and is someone I trust. The dog's a little over a year old. It's been on a lot of birds in his first year, quail mostly released. It's been shot over. It has a strong whoa and recall foundation. Right now, I plan on keeping it simple and reinforcing what he already knows, hunting him this season, then taking him through the trained retrieve next spring. I wanted to ask if you had any advice for individuals with a started dog that is new to them. Are there any common mistakes you see? Is there anything you avoid doing, especially in the first few weeks of bringing him home? Is there any harm in starting to train retrieve now?
Okay. Well, there's a couple things in there. So, first thing, I wouldn't do anything but be that dog's pal. He asked, are there any things the first couple weeks? Mm-hmm. The worst thing you can do is I got my new started dog. I'm going to get a couple buddies and buy some birds and go out there and do this, do that. No, just that dog needs to adjust. You got to be its new best pal.
Take it on some walks.
Yep, and just get used to your home.
Yeah.
And the routine around home, just be its buddy.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like this guy got some good instruction from the guy. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, he could start developing a little bit of rapport with the dog. Just backyard, a little recall, little whatever the dog knows, a little leash manners. Start getting him used to loading in his truck, going for rides here or there, a few runs with no birds first. Don't go right to that. Sounds like the dog had a bunch of bird exposure and he's been shot over. Yeah. We're in late, third week in August-ish. So hunting seasons are not all that far away. I don't think you mentioned where he is, but I don't care where you are. It's not too terribly far from right now. Right. I wouldn't worry about any more pen-raised birds. If the dog had that start, he's introduced to the gun. Right. Make sure that you build that, that's why I say those runs without birds. Make sure that the dog is one that's going to check in, handle, kind of be this unified team going into the season. Yeah. And then hunt him. Absolutely hunt that dog all season. If you want to keep exercising your whoa command, first year you shouldn't have any expectations of any higher level of steadiness, right? Let that dog develop his bird skills, use of his nose and his pointing.
He's staunch enough to shoot over.
Well, sure.
We assume.
Yeah. And they were released birds, so if this guy's hunting wild birds, the dog's going to learn some life lessons from those. Yeah. He's not going to just point every bird that he comes across out there, and they learn from that. They all need to go through that. The retrieving is going to be what the retrieving is going to be, because he talked about, I'm going to do this trained retrieve. Right. And he's planning on spring, which is, I'm glad to hear he doesn't want to try and cram that in right now before the season.
But the last question was, is there any harm in starting to train retrieve now?
I would, if I did anything, this would be days and time, and we can't hunt all the time. Right. Get your training table built. And
get him used to the table.
You go up there, groom, brush them, dole out treats.
Is the dog too old for the calming touch ever?
No, never too old. They don't grow out of that.
So that's
another
dog that you
didn't
didn't previously own. That's going to build a little bond with him.
Yep, that'll be good. And if he did anything along those lines, it's not going to have anything to do with what's going on in the field. There's going to be no fetch work or anything. And I would take, I think the longer baseline you build of a dog's comfort level up on the table, that when you do go to train on the table, that's nothing but a good thing. Yeah. And once he gets
petted, basically groomed, they've been loved,
handled up there like crazy, and then he can start just a little bit of early hold work up there that the dog will not be connecting to retrieving in any way. This is just going to be the little thing that they do on the table in his garage or his basement or wherever it is.
He's going to learn,
get a little more and more and more structure and formal with it and build on that. But the longer you take your time and build that front end baseline level of comfort with the dog, the better the back end goes.
Right.
I think when people get in trouble is when they rush through that front end and all of a sudden it's not so fun to the dog and hey, I just got up on this table 3 days ago and now it's not fun already.
Right.
I don't even want to do this.
Right.
Yeah. So take your time on that front
Let the
end.
paint dry on the training table.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's good. I like that one. All right. Mark writes, I have a 4-year-old poodle point. First non-drop hair wire hair question we've had practically.
We're not too far from that
No, we're
family
not.
tree, though.
It's the family tree. It is. Ron, I have a 4-year-old poodle pointer. It has a tendency to pull the head of ducks. I'm guessing he means pull it off. The tendency to pull the head of ducks upon exiting the water. I've worked with bumpers, frozen ducks, taped ducks, and for the most part, she will bring those to hand. But on live ducks, especially after a long retrieve or search, she comes to the edge of the water, or just short, and stomps on the breast and pulls at the head. If I get it on her right away, then she has a tendency to drop it. Well, she probably thinks she's in trouble. And I'm sure it was something I did wrong in a forced fetch training early and never fully corrected. Is it best to go back through the forced fetch process or take a different approach?
Well, it certainly is a glitch in a finished trained retrieve.
Right.
Because done thoroughly, successfully, they're not going to drop them any place other than your hand.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So somewhere along the line this started, and he didn't quite have maybe a complete set of tools in place to be able to correct the dog and have the dog, oh, okay, I got to finish this all the way.
Yeah.
So he doesn't say whether he's 100% hunter or there's a a judge watching, right? It's going to knock him for that. Because a lot of duck hunters would be like, I got my bird, I don't eat the head anyway. Get back in the blind and let's wait for the next one.
Albeit he's wasting a few minutes just because I got another flock of ducks.
We got to be practical here.
Right.
I want to make sure if he's a hunter that, hey, there's worse things. But to answer his question from a pure training standpoint, yes, there's a weak link in your trained retrieve.
Right. So
now, to really address that, he may need to have waders on and be in that water with the dog. If whatever he's got to do to get that dog coming out of the water, hold, not dumping it there.
Right.
You're not always going to be able to fix everything from the blind.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
That's for once you're done.
Right.
I mean, some dogs will let you do it because they're just going along with the program. But he's troubleshooting a very specific issue.
Right.
So anytime, this is a common blanket thing, when you're troubleshooting a specific issue, isolate that issue. Yeah. Target that thing. You can, okay, this is where the problem is.
Right.
So don't try and fix it during what's going to happen when you hunt as part of the whole.
Right.
Whatever you got to do, get that dog coming out of the water, walk him right back in with waders, coming out of the water, walk him right back in multiple times each session. Yeah. So you got to overwhelm it with volume. When I come out of that water, I'm not allowed to drop this.
Right. Yep.
Now, maybe his foundation is or isn't strong enough in that carry. Right. And it sounds like you say he's fine with bumpers, right?
Yeah.
And dummies.
Yeah, worked with bumpers, frozen ducks.
Yep, frozen ducks, and the dog will go. Yep, but he gets that live duck in there. He wants that head for some reason.
Yeah.
And dogs are dogs. They all have these little idiosyncrasies that are unique to them.
Right.
It's totally a personal thing what you are and aren't willing to live with and how much of a training project you want to make about things.
Right.
One thing I feel I got to tell him is whatever you do, make sure that your attempt to fix this doesn't cause more harm than you're doing good.
I have an example of that.
Okay, let's hear it.
I've seen the dogs because I think it's a testing thing. I'm going to take a guess at 4 years old, and if he's working in the versatile testing, not that many versatile guys really duck hunt their dog.
Okay.
Right? So they see something in a problem, and like you said, they overcorrect it and do something, and it manifests. The next time, the dog's like, all right, I'll behave here, but I'm out in the back of the corner in a swamp, and he does the same behavior back there.
Yeah.
You know, they could just say, okay, I won't do it in front of you. Mm-hmm. And you come back and the head's missing. Judge pretty much knows what he did.
Sure.
When he hands off the duck with no head.
Yeah.
So to your point, yeah, be very careful it doesn't manifest into another issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because and that goes back to his Trained Retrieve Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
How strong is that? So at its core, it is quite simple. You're not supposed to drop that when you come up, whether it's
hard for a dog to pull a head off while it's in his mouth.
He's got the body in his mouth.
Right.
That's the fix.
Yeah,
right. But make sure in getting to that you don't turn the dog off or create this
another
is
problem.
You don't want the dog thinking coming in general is going to get him in trouble, right? That's why you got to isolate that one thing.
And if it is, and this could already be a manifestation of some other training thing he did to him too. You know, dogs can get a little pissy when you force them to do a lot of stuff. I mean, this would be a suggestion I would have because I have to mess with the water once in a while. Where if you go back through your hold and carry and you think things are pretty good, and I see he said bumpers, frozen ducks, and tape ducks. He didn't tell me he had a freshly shot duck or a duck with a head hanging, right? Mm-hmm. If he's going to go back and try to repair this, you said, he's going to have to get his waders on.
Maybe.
And you might have to look for the right body of water where that dog is going to come up in deep water, right? And he doesn't have an opportunity to get, you know what I mean? You might have to start taking that bird away from him before he can put his feet on the ground. Because then again, he can't do unless you give him a pair of scissors and game shears.
He said something on the front end of that, like if I get after him or he usually what does he say?
Especially if a long retrieve comes to the edge of the water and stomps on the breast. If I get on her right away, then she has a tendency to drop it.
Right. So she knows she's in trouble.
She knows she's in trouble.
Yeah.
So
it's in his voice and his body language, I'm sure. And dog's like, uh-oh, here we go again. Right?
Why does he make me do this?
So you got to try not to push that button.
Right.
Again, figure out a different pathway. There's all kinds of different pathways, but I'm sure he's probably at 4, tried and tried and tried and tried.
Probably.
Okay, think of something different.
Right.
Think outside the box.
Now here's one. Have him do a live duck retrieve in a field. No water.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
You can at least get to him.
Great idea.
Right?
Great idea. So much easier to work with the dog
on
in the
land
field.
with that live duck.
Yeah.
Because they always find live ducks for the utility test.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
Good
go.
idea.
See? Mm-hmm. Wonder if anybody in his chapter thought of that. All right. Dean writes, hope all is well. Question is coming out here. My question is coming from out here in both Central Oregon. I guess I didn't read that right. With my 1.5-year-old Brittany. I live on a piece of property that's bordered by cherry orchards, which leads to a lot of birds that live in my yard, mostly robins, finches, and a few valley quail. When we are in the yard, my dog will stand and point these birds for hours if you let her. She will stand out the front door and point until I flush them. My concern is that she's getting too used to sight pointing birds due to the volume of birds in my yard. Any ideas on that?
Yeah, that dog's got a ton of point, and it's just entertaining itself. It's a backyard game.
Yeah.
I'd quit flushing them for her.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll quit eventually, or she'll run in and scare off. Get an invisible fence, or maybe has a traditional fence. Whatever. Okay?
Right.
That's her dog yard.
Yeah.
Let her be a dog in her dog yard. If she wants to entertain herself, pointing dicky birds all day, great. It's worse things a dog could do.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then you go hunt.
Right.
And that is going to be a different dog.
Yeah.
She's running off her nose. She's running off scent.
There ain't going to be any birds standing
whatever.
there
She's a
singing
year
for
and a
her.
half old, so she's still learning these things.
Still pup. Yeah.
So I used to live in Central Oregon, so he is not far from some good bird hunting opportunities. Right. Load that dog up and go hunt.
Right.
Go hunt valley quail. Go hunt chuckers. Go over to the east side of the state. There's pheasants, huns.
Yeah.
And so he's got good bird hunting within reasonable driving distances.
Right.
Don't worry about what she does in your yard.
Right.
Yep.
It's just sight pointing.
Yep. But the reason I threw the bit in about the fence
Right.
is we don't want that dog to get used to going off and just self-hunting.
Right.
You know, those resident valley quail around there. So.
Yeah. I never shot a valley quail. I've never been out that way.
They're a cool bird.
Are they?
Yeah.
Are they good for dogs or?
Yeah, in the right cover.
Yeah.
And, yep, I like them. Yeah, they're excellent.
All right, little refresher break there. Scott writes, I have a 2-year-old male wire-haired pointing Griffon that I'm training for utility tests. I recently adopted him from a breeder that had him returned due to an owner passing away. He hasn't had any formal bird training before I got him. All right, so the owner never did any training with the dog. Now he's got the dog. I have put him on some good flying quail, and he is a nice active search and a natural point. He also loves water retrieves, but has some hesitation entering unfamiliar ponds. My question is, how can I help him build a search in the water? He has a lot of drive for the duck and the bumpers, but when I've thrown some live ducks in a pond, he doesn't seem to want to go in after them. I have put ducks out in shallow water and he can run through, and in a wooded area next to our training pond, and he searches just there. Not when he has to swim. Any tips for molding his drive into the duck marsh? It sounds like a...
Well, the one's a little more in your wheelhouse than mine. The one thing I would say is this dog is just getting to know birds in general.
Right.
And he's had positive, glimpses of potential with good flying quail.
Right.
Okay, how about you throw a dead quail in the water instead of a live duck? That's a big jump for a dog that's just first birds.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That's all I got. The rest is in your...
I was going to... See, you should have. No, you don't want to do all that, man. Messy work. I was thinking the same thing. I said if he does like quail, start with a quail in the water. It doesn't have to be a duck. No. They'll do a great job of swimming upright. I mean, flapping their wings and making a little stir in the water. But here's something I just want to say to all listeners, because I did this versatile testing for over almost 30 years. There's some dogs that don't want to be test dogs. And I know that's not an answer to this question, but what I'm trying to say is don't try putting lipstick on a pig sometimes. Not this particular dog. But I've seen people go to this test year after year after year, and they keep getting a 2 in search and a 2 in search. They go back next year. I've worked all year. The dog does not want to do that. And he doesn't have this dog long enough to know if that's this dog's issue. So I would say, go to a quail.
Or is he just doing this because he think he's supposed to because it's a griff?
I don't know.
He didn't say anything about test, did he?
No, but
it kind of smells like it.
It sounds like it.
Or is he a duck hunter?
I don't think so.
Yeah. But to your point, you're right. Not every dog is made out to be successful in any testing program, field trial program, certain avenues of hunting. So let's not lose sight of this is not a computer that you're programming.
Right.
Fairly assess what we have, what these dogs are capable of, allow them the time to, learn what they need to learn and everything. And don't shove a square peg through a round hole. Find something that it's supposed to be fun.
Right.
Okay? And I hate seeing somebody get frustrated, down on their dog for something that is not their dog's fault.
Right.
That's just part of who he is. Yeah. Don't get up every day and shock Kermit the Frog for being green, because he's still going to be green tomorrow.
Be green the next day.
Yeah. So let's use common sense here.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this dog is just now getting exposed. This isn't a 2-year-old that he's been exposing.
It's not a 2-year-old hunting dog, is it?
It's 2 years on the calendar, it has not been exposed to this stuff since it was 6 months, or about the ages that most hunters would be starting to expose their dog to these things anyway. So he's going to have a totally different dog in another year.
Yeah.
And like I've recommended ad nauseum at this point, worry about hunting right now.
Right.
Go put a season of real bird hunting on that dog.
The best effort you can in that department.
And hunting. And then you'd be amazed that when you start working on those other things, they're drawing upon those hunting experiences.
Right. And they're like, I wonder if this is the real thing
So many of those things will happen on their own over time, over hunts. But a lot of people are only hunting
Right.
a couple times a year, 3-4 times
Right.
a year. Not enough.
Right. And so that, like you said, if you're, when he says he has good desire on a bumper or a Doken dummy, I mean, I can't blame that dog for not wanting to go get a duck.
A live duck.
A live duck's a live duck.
That's what I said.
So again, that's another time, like I answered that other guy. Next year, go mess with this. After he's found, let him go find that duck on the land first. It is not. There's no rule that says a duck has to be on the water.
Yeah, it's a griff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
People duck hunt in cornfields all the time.
I see a pile of those now, griffs.
You do,
right? Tons of them.
Right.
And I'll tell you, I enjoy working with them. But every one of them is a little weird about something. Somewhere, and it's all over the map.
Right.
It can be all kinds of weird stuff. So maybe right now it's that live duck, okay?
Right.
Don't make a stink
Take that
about it.
live
Don't
duck out
fight.
of the
Don't worry
picture.
about it. Come
Yep.
back around to it later.
Yep.
Yep. That's the best thing. You're not going to magically erase that from
Right.
whatever the hang
You
up
can't
is in
rub
the
coil
dog.
scent on a duck.
No. So just worry about something else for the time being. Come back around to it later if it's mandatory for
Right.
you.
Right. All right. Scott writes, when do you use the tone? I don't know if this is a general question or to you, Justin. When do you use the tone or vibration function on training collars? And then he has some bullet points. It's really hard to get training birds. What are a couple of good alternatives? Plus, we need to stay out of the fields to let the babies grow. So obviously, he's talking quiet season. Is place training? He's got a lot of questions here. Let's do the first one then.
Okay.
Yeah, tone or vibration. When do you use tone or vibration function on training collars?
Okay. I've not yet found a good use for the vibrate at all. My opinion, it's a feel-good thing for the owner that they didn't quote-unquote shock their dog. My personal experience with it, which has led me away from it, is that it scares dogs. That on their neck. It is far more mentally upsetting than the low levels of electronic stim.
Right, which we can feel in our hands, which are
it's a little
nothing.
right? But that vibration a lot of times creates fear in a dog. When you tap that fear response in a dog, their brain goes to a different track.
Right.
You can't teach a dog that's in a state of fear.
Right.
Okay? So I don't like it. Now, could you use it to make getting a sandwich off the counter scary to a dog? I suppose.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll work. Has no application for me in command reinforcement.
Gotcha.
Okay? I'm going to go for the low-level stim every time.
Right.
Also because somewhere down the road, these dogs work in a uncontrolled environment that contains hazards. They're not always, what does a scared dog usually do? Comes running back to you, right?
Right.
What do people usually use a collar for?
Come back.
Right. Okay. So it's a con job. They think, wow, this vibrate works great. Okay. But you're not training
I
your
can't
dog.
tell you how many people I heard say I use
It's all
vibrate
the
to
time.
recall
How
my
you
dog.
vibrate? Yeah. No. Yeah. Because you scared him. Yeah. Okay. You're not collar conditioning your dog for come when called. So, but when you're out hunting, there's going to be situations where whatever that stimulus is far more enticing, and it'll run through that. And if he's
per se like a deer or a highway and
whatever, or there's another
low-flying
dog
bird
over there or something.
They're not likely to run. They're more likely to run through a vibrate
For sure.
than they are.
But you're going to need to go up from your low levels that you
Your
collar
training
condition
level
to.
stimulus.
Right. So
There is no high level vibrate, is there?
I don't think so. So if you did not collar condition your dog to stim, I'm just going to be one of those, I just use the vibrate guys.
Right.
Okay. That'll be the first time you're going to go, uh-oh, vibrate's not working. My dog's doing whatever, right? You're going to default to the stim to try and save your dog's life, and he's never felt it before.
Right.
And he doesn't know what to do.
He could
bolt,
blow
he could
right
clam up, or for the rest of his life, stim's bad. Why? Because we didn't teach him what to do. So that's my 2 cents on the vibrate.
Right.
Now,
Tone.
somebody who will remain nameless, who works for a very well-known collar company, and I had a discussion about that, and I said, why is that on every single collar now? You know what he told me?
Why?
We can't sell one if it's not. It's misguided consumer demand, right?
Yeah.
If they have a collar that doesn't have it on it now, the customer is going to pick a different one that does.
Right.
So it's included on every collar. Like I said, if you have some around the house use for it, fine. But do not have it be a substitute for collar conditioning your dog to the stim. Low-level stim is not painful or perceived as punishment or a correction.
Right.
Your collar conditioning a dog with low-level stim. Okay, tone. Tone can mean anything that you want it to mean that you take the time to teach the dog. I think the one place that I personally use it is in the big Western country where the dogs are going to range out a ways. I'll use it as a way to cue the dog to swing around and check in. If that dog is 300 yards away out there, I'm not going to go railing on a whistle or holler and try and get. No, I don't want to be that, right? He's way out there. Okay, you can condition those dogs at that tone. Means you can come around and check in. Kind of a silent recall-ish thing, a loose
Pay
recall,
attention, so to speak.
Check in.
Right.
It can bend a dog. It can mean anything you want it to mean.
Right.
So it's just, it comes right from the collar. It's just a little audible tone that they can hear. You can condition that to mean anything.
You can make it mean
anything
dinner
you
time.
want.
You can make it mean
anything you want.
Yep. We're not going to be able to answer all of these. Like this one is, can you and Ron carry, list your carry and truck first aid items? Well, I already got a little video I got to do for the drawer system, and I'm going to show everybody my first aid box.
Here's the short answer to that.
Yeah. To the things you have to have on.
Well, no, just think what can happen to my dog's eyes, ears, feet, skin, GI tract. Those are the main ones.
Yeah.
Right? So think there. What can happen? So you should have something to address all of those things. Right? Think of those. But if you got a little first aid thing coming, great.
Yeah. I mean, I think people just like to know. I wonder what they carry. But I want to say one thing that I don't, and I will this year, is about those snare cutters that you keep in your. That's a form of first aid. You're saving your dog's life.
Sure.
What? Tell people what that.
Well,
it's a true cable cutter.
It's what the guys who build snares use to cut snare cable.
Okay.
You got to buy them from Trapper Supply places.
Right.
Okay. If you think you're going to cut snare cable with a Leatherman, you're wrong. Or any of the other great multi-tools. They're great, but you can't cut
that
snare
wire.
Cable with those.
Right.
And so, they're not super cheap, but they're not horribly expensive. They're small. They're not that heavy. I have them in my vest all the time.
Yeah.
Haven't had to save a dog's life with them yet, but if it ever happens, I got them.
Right. Yeah. And I know that's the one thing I didn't have, but I'm looking for it because, when I go out west more, there's more still trapping out there,
Yeah.
My little spots I hunt around home, I don't see too many traps, but.
And remember, trappers have just as much right to enjoy their sport as we do out there.
Right.
So this does not vilify the trapper. It's our job to be prepared should we get into that situation.
Is place training a good idea for pointing dogs, like the place board?
It could have a little bit, as long as you make them stand on it. It's a place for whoa, right? You could do that.
Right.
Or is he talking like in the house, go lay down in a place?
He didn't specify enough, but it could be kind of a beginning spot to start your whoa from.
You could a little bit. All that whoa stuff is just a stepping stone. It's not going to hurt anything, but I'm shocked at how many people think once a dog will do that.
On a place board?
Yep. They're running in the field and hollering whoa. No, it's a little stepping stone that can help a dog learn. I think it's got limited application to pointing dogs, but a little bit of it isn't going to hurt. For companion, just family member stuff around the house, it's not bad. Right here next to my desk that we're sitting at, I teach dogs to lay on this dog bed next to me.
That's a place.
That's a form of place training.
Right.
Yeah, you can go lay down.
Just not a raised platform. It's a cushy platform.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I think I know the answer to this, but I do want to hear Justin's. My dogs do well on tailgate steps, except when it comes to awns and the nasal passages. I don't know that you can ever really. That's a lot of fussing.
Well, most of the time they're going to blow it out. They'll be sneezing,
right.
and they'll blow it out.
Right. For people who don't know what that is, I'm sure not ever. There's some new ones. It's like a grass seed head that the dog can inhale.
Yeah.
And can be very
dangerous.
Very dangerous to a dog. So, yeah, when he says any tools or tricks for checking the nose,
If it's in there that far,
I wouldn't mess with it. Yeah, myself.
that's what sedation and a veterinary instrument is
Right.
for. If even if you had that tool,
Right.
you don't want to do it on a dog that's squirming around, sticking that in their
Right.
nose. You're nuts.
Right.
Yeah. So you will know. Because a lot of times, even when they do get something way in there and blow it out, sneezing,
Right.
it's still super irritated,
sneeze.
and they'll continue to sneeze and
Yeah,
sneeze
right.
and sneeze.
Right.
If that sneezing persists, and especially if
day.
it's coupled with a little discharge,
Right.
okay, you better get him in there,
Right.
knock him out, have him go in there and look at it.
Yeah, no real trick and tool is knowing when to go to the vet.
Always. You got to
that's the
know when to
trick.
go.
All right, and this one might take too long. We might have to save it for another episode, Justin. I asked you this one a while back because I heard it from Tana. You know Tana out in Montana, Kerdolfer. And dogs learn in sequences of 1, 3, and 5. I attributed that to the Smiths, but I heard the lady from True Grit Brits mention it. Does Justin have any thoughts on that?
Well, we can make it real short.
Yeah.
To the best of my knowledge, that originated with Delmer Smith. Mm-hmm. Never doubt anything that guy tells you about training dogs. Okay. I can't prove or disprove it, but don't ever doubt that man.
That man,
Just that simple.
that man knows
There you go.
his critters.
Yeah.
So
we made short work of that.
If you want to implement 1, 3s, and 5s,
well,
yeah.
by nature, 1 is not a series of repetitions. So
Right.
let's go 3, 5, and 7.
Okay.
Odd number.
You're right. You're right.
I don't count them. Actually, honestly, when I'm doing, so when you hear of that, you're thinking more command.
I need to do this a
command
third
based,
time
right?
or
Okay,
something.
so I don't count them. Okay.
Right.
However, I am very keenly aware as when is the right point to end this session. Mm-hmm. Right, and that's based on that would take a bunch of time. Right.
Right.
But if things aren't going right, and you really had a stinker of a response or something, and that happened to be number 5, don't stop just because it's number 5.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Finish on a good note, even if good note's 6.
Right.
All right. Do you want to take a break or anything? You good?
No, I got a little water here.
Okay, no worries. Hello, I am a first-time German Shorthair Pointer owner. This will be my first year hunting with him. My question is it bad to hunt pheasants with a first-time GSP? If so, why?
Okay.
Pheasants.
Well, somehow I've gotten a reputation as a guy who
Somehow.
I don't know. I mean,
The guy who says pheasants will ruin a good quail hunt?
It's followed me around for some reason. So we'll just clear the air on that real quick. Okay, I don't hate any game bird. I love them all.
They all taste
okay?
good. Yeah.
My irritation with pheasants come when they begin to run interference in what otherwise was a perfectly fine hunt for a different species. Okay, that's where they get under my skin a little bit. Pheasants are fine when I'm hunting pheasants, and I approach that hunt accordingly.
Right.
When they muck up a good hun or quail or prairie chicken hunt, that's when I get darn thing.
Ditch chickens.
Yeah. But so this guy, he's probably been told, don't run a young pointing dog on pheasants; they'll ruin them. Okay. The problem often is not the bird per se; it's where these pheasants sometimes live. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the congregation of pheasants that are in these places. The density of pheasants. So number 1, row crops. Don't get anywhere near them. I don't care if there's 500 pheasants in that row crop field. I don't want anything to do with it. Right. They don't do a young pointing dog any good. Nothing good's going to happen in there.
In row crop field.
No.
Or especially corn.
Right. And everybody's got to learn this lesson the hard way. I was just going to hunt along the edge of it in the ground. That's always how it starts, right? Yeah. Where do you think those birds are going to run to once they know you and your dog are there? Next thing you know, your dog's running down the rows of the field and pheasants pouring out. Everybody has to learn that one the hard way.
Yep.
But the other thing to avoid with young pointing dogs is those really tall grass weed sloughs.
Over your head
type sloughs. Dog's going to get in there. The birds are going to run. Mm-hmm. At least until a dog develops some pheasant savvy. Because they do take a certain kind of work from a pointing dog. Not every pointing dog is a good pheasant dog.
No.
And very few dogs are good right out of the chute. I've had some good young pointing dog work on pheasants in the right kind of grass,
Right.
where there's a few here and a few there, and a pheasant
Right.
here, and you got knee to waist high grass of a little
You see
different
the dog,
density, and
yeah.
that's a fair fight. But
Right.
and that gives a young dog an opportunity to use pointing dog skills,
Right.
search and cover, using his nose. Yep, they're going to run some, but maybe
Right.
not beeline like crazy.
And there's young pheasants that'll hold.
Right time of year.
And there's hens that'll hold. You know, put it this way: if he could get that German Shorthair into the right place, stay away from the ag, and he's got a population of pheasants enough to hunt, he might come out with a really good dog if they learn how to out sneak a rooster pheasant.
Listen, that's what a lot of people hunt is pheasants.
Yeah.
So don't avoid them.
Right.
Just avoid the bad setups.
Yeah, bad setup.
So, and a lot of this should be taking place after the crops are in anyways. Okay?
Should be, yeah.
Should be.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
So pick your cover.
Pick your cover.
Number one, and if you're going to be a pheasant hunter it's a short hair, right? Yeah, it's a great choice in my opinion to be a pheasant dog. You don't have to pull cockleburs every time you're done, and they have a skill set I think that by and large lends themselves to a good pheasant dogs.
They're certainly good at, I think, staying on the track,
and they're durable, and so. But if that's what he's going to hunt, there's no sense in postponing his first experiences on those birds.
Just be careful.
Just pick the right setups
Yeah.
and recognize that. Wait a minute, this isn't going to go good for any pointing dog here.
And if the picture on his Gmail is correct, it's a very young pup right now. So
Okay, good. Yeah.
Take him out. He's just let him use his nose and get in some grassy
Get in
fields.
some birds.
Yeah. Monty writes, I have an 11-month-old pointer. My trainer puts him on a lead and heels him out to the field, steadies him up, and releases him. Is that crucial? I am more of a drop the tailgate and let them run around guy than hunt from the truck kind of guy. That part I'm not quite sure, Monty, but
I get it. I know what he's saying.
You can picture what he's saying.
I picture exactly what he's saying.
Okay.
Yeah. There's an old saying that when a trainer hands the leash over, the work begins to erode. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is how it happens.
Right.
So this trainer this is an 11-month-old dog.
Yeah.
He's still very much in the process of becoming trained.
Right.
He knows some stuff, but it needs to be enforced. Mm-hmm. What the trainer is doing is correct in the world of the interest of getting to a reliably trained dog.
Right.
Okay. Right out of the chute, loud and clear to the dog who's driving the bus today. You're going to walk manually on a leash. You're going to stop and stand there and wait to be released to go hunt and work.
Seems like the way I've seen you hunt.
That's the way a lot of people do. And
Yeah.
you know, I have a good friend who's an outstanding horse trainer. When he gets on a horse, okay, he makes him walk, he makes him stop, he makes him back up, he makes him go forward again and go left and right before he goes on a trail ride.
Blinkers, checking the reverse gear.
But again, it makes it loud and clear to the animal you're training. I'm driving the bus.
Right.
Okay. So when he talks about, we've all seen tons of guys like this. They get to where they're going to hunt. First thing they do is fling that crate door open. The dog's running around like a ninny, peeing and pooping, and get back here. And you're getting boots on and getting guts on.
Who's yelling at you to get your dog back in?
That's fine for the old dog.
Right.
Been there, done that 100 times. So this is his dog. He can do what he wants.
Right.
I would recommend continuing on with that little bit of structure. Dogs are creatures of routine, right? It's a tiny bit more effort for him, but really, how hard is this?
Well, he's not saying he's got to walk at the first quarter mile in the field. He just has this routine of calming the dog down.
Dog is the last thing out when you're ready to go. Boom. Okay, we're going to get the dog out, heel. Whoa. All right, wait. All right, you can go now. And if the dog isn't listening to you right at the truck, he's not going to be listening to you when he's running around.
So, Monty, pay attention.
Yeah.
I think I know that's, yeah.
And hey, if you do that, he's 11 months. If you do that for the next 2 seasons, then you can let him out. And
he'll tailgate.
Yeah.
Hey, Ron and Justin. I've got a 15-week-old French Brittany, female right now. I got her at 9 weeks, so he's only had her 6 weeks. Okay. I'm working with her through some of the basics and seeing a lot of great process with place training, recall, and waiting to be released. She tends to tribble a little urine every time she greets me. Doesn't happen with my wife and kids or anyone else. I initially thought it was an excitement issue, so I ignore her until she's completely calm and not watching me. She still pees a little as soon as I touch her. I read something about submissive urination, which I never heard of. I know this isn't really specifically bird dog training, but do you have any ideas? Could it just be a bladder control? Will it resolve with age? Never had a dog do it. Love any insight possible. Steve.
Submissive urination.
Yeah.
The dog is showing its submission to him. What's interesting is it doesn't do it with anybody else.
Yeah.
Not the wife, not the kids, nobody else this is around.
Yeah.
I've seen it plenty. It's really a hassle for a house dog. There's piddling all the time, every time. And so what he's seeing is exactly when you usually see it. Is when you reach, when the dog is close to you, you're this big, let's say 6-foot human towering over this 15-week-old Brittany puppy and reaching down for him. It's like, whoa, okay?
Yeah.
Now, there's other big humans in this dog's life it's not doing that with. First step to managing that, the good news I have for this guy is almost all of them outgrow this.
Good.
So when you can pinpoint what causes this, it's a matter of hopefully he has a fenced yard. So now he doesn't have to snap a leash on the dog in his house.
Oh, that would be
to
that
take
same
it out. That
bending
reaching
over, reaching thing.
Reaching, right? If you have to, get a slip lead. So you don't have to actually grab the collar. You can just
kind of
put a slip lead over him to get him out or something like that. So try and find a way to get through your daily routines without pushing that trigger button that causes that submissive urination.
Right.
Don't force yourself on the dog. Let the dog approach you. This is 100% mental.
This is a management thing, too.
It is, but it's working with a dog's mind, right? And so once you can identify the triggers, figure out a way to get what you need to get done with that puppy, just part of a daily care and routine without creating that.
Right.
But also, let's think about, wait a minute, this isn't happening with everybody, just him.
Right.
He's had it 6 weeks. He's already doing all this training.
Oh, yeah. I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
Okay. So the one person who
is giving
all these lessons.
Right. Recall.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hey, I'm all for a little bit of early structure, but perhaps this is a little bit of a sign from this little sweetheart French Brittany gal that's just a baby.
I'm not ready for high school.
Yeah, right.
I'd rather start out with daycare.
Is she feeling a little pressure from this guy? And, it's 15 weeks old. So maybe reevaluate, at some point in any of this early puppy training, did he grab that dog?
Yeah, sometimes you do because you see a poop or a pee happening.
And 29 out of 30 of them, no problemo. Right?
But
they're all different. Right. So somewhere along the line, she's very much submitting to this guy.
So it could be like almost a combination
find
of something.
That balance. And she's coming right into that window, when he gets to 7-8 months, this is all going to be water under the bridge. Right. So he's just got to find a way to get through this puppy phase, and then it should be gone by then.
Right. And, I when you said, basically modify your approach around the dog, right? There isn't any reason he's got to come in the door and bend over and pet his puppy.
Nope.
Right? I mean, you don't have to.
Nope.
If the whole family's giving the puppy a little love today,
fine.
Go sit down in a chair.
Yep. Let the puppy approach you. If it comes up, you don't even have to reach for it at first. Hey, sweetheart, how are you today?
Oh, what are you doing? Trying to get on my... Yeah, that's the kind of way of changing up the... Because he's like, hey, Dad's home. Hey, and he's bending over and whatever that is in that dog's head.
Yeah.
So
you just slowly desensitize him to those situations. And so if he plays his hand right, that one should go away. It's exceptionally rare for that to stay for life.
Yeah. Couple questions from Brandon. Are there certain pen-raised birds that are better for training a young dog? Thinking initial bird contacts before hunting season. Are there certain pen-raised birds that are better for training a young dog?
Yes.
I I figured I'd know your answer to this one, but
Strong, healthy. Anybody who's worked with pen-reared birds can tell you they're not all created equal.
Right.
There's the overall health and nutrition of the birds,
Right.
and then there's a big genetic component
right.
to the quality of these birds, the flightiness of them,
Right.
if you will. Some birds are just genetically ultra tame. They're perfectly healthy and they're well
almost-
feathered.
Almost too domesticated.
They're over tame.
Yeah.
So those can lead to some bad habits, and then of course sick or poorly feathered birds are no good. They're
Right.
just not strong.
Right.
As far as types of birds, good quail are outstanding. Pen-reared huns are naturally, the ones I've been around are naturally pretty jumpy. A dog or a person gets anywhere around them
Yeah.
and they get up and go. They're a little tricky to use. You need a lot of room to
Okay.
use them.
Not just a little 5
No,
acre.
they're not gonna work well for that.
Right.
They just as likely to
But
end
if
up
you
a
lived
quarter
out
mile.
west
If you had a
somewhere-
lot of room. Yeah, I don't know. You check your laws on that.
Well, that's
I don't
true,
know
too.
about where
I shouldn't
there's
say out west, yeah.
no. But if you have space, I've used them here in places in Michigan before where kind of more bigger grassland. Oh, outstanding dog training
Mm-hmm. Great.
birds. Yeah. So if you had
That's
the right
interesting.
ground, yeah,
Because
they're kind of hard to find.
Well, I
in
was at
some
a preserve
places.
one time in Virginia. Took some friends from a plant, and I've always got my dogs. Do you guys want to go to a preserve for the weekend or for a day? And the guy asked me if I wanted chuckers or huns, and I'm like, I felt like he doesn't know that there's huns. I'm like, I did not know until about 10 years ago that they actually raised them in captivity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've found it to be a very good dog training bird if you have the right land. Some people you either don't have the right land or don't be a price shopper. They're expensive.
Oh, yeah.
They're more than pheasants. And the reason is they require more space to grow.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you've always said a quality
Don't
bird,
go cheap there.
A quality bird experience.
Don't go cheap there.
Yeah.
Nope. And then the other bird I think that's often overlooked by a lot of people is a young pheasant. Like a 13, 14-week-old pheasant
Yeah.
can be a great dog training bird. They'll move around some a little bit on a dog, which is great. Birds run, move some. Not every bird sits there like a
Right.
bump on a log. So those dogs got to learn how to sort that out.
Right.
They get up and fly really good.
Yeah.
Once they get older, that's when you get that crazy beeline running that a lot of pointing dog guys don't want to deal with trying to
Right.
train a dog. But a young pheasant can be a great bird.
I've seen them out here at your place.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can be a great training bird.
Right.
So those are the three kind of birds I like if in the off season for introducing puppies to birds where you
Right.
can tap those natural instincts and avoid the traps of
Right.
an experience you wish didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And then once the dog training season opens up after nesting season, so I'm assuming he means July, how early do you start training on wild birds? What training are you looking to have completed or been through before introducing your young dog to wild birds? So I guess I'm thinking he's going to get a dog this winter. By the time maybe he'll run it a little bit on spring woodcock and grouse or something. But
Well, who knows when his puppy's
Right,
coming.
right.
So as far as when, so here in Michigan, it's July 8th now.
okay.
Okay. I feel that date was really picked for our houndsmen
Okay.
to get back in with their bear and bobcat dogs.
It's about free casting a
cow
dog
dogs,
out
yeah.
there,
Yeah.
getting a jump on it.
That's a little early for bird dogs in my ethically. I mean, there's still some pretty little grouse out there
Right.
then. I think August 1st is a pretty good day to circle on
safer
the
date.
calendar that the overwhelming majority of our young of the year
Right.
are up and flying really good, that we can work our dogs on them
Right.
and not cause any troubles.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to vary regionally depending on where you live when your birds hit that point. You know,
Right.
there are states that don't have a quiet season. It's 100% up to the ethics of the dog owner,
Yeah.
right? So that's where it should be, regardless of when that date is, when the overwhelming majority of the young of the year
Yeah.
are up and flying really good.
You know, to that, we won't beat it real long, but I'm curious because you spent so many years in Montana for September 1st. I always thought, like,
Oh, and
that seems so early to me. But, but did you run into small little groups of birds there, or is
only, I mean, you definitely know they're flying really good by then.
there?
September 1.
Okay.
With only a rare some train wreck happened on the first go around,
Yeah.
and you will have, but that's
Just
very rare.
It's not a thing to even.
No,
Yeah.
you'd have some little ones.
Right.
You just let them fly. They
Yeah.
grow so fast.
Yeah.
They grow so fast.
Yeah.
And yeah, what a difference a few weeks make in a game
Right,
bird.
right.
And then as far as there is no, I have to have, as long as they're big enough to get out and begin, I guess the only prerequisite before introduction to wild birds is that they've been run a lot. Puppy nature walks.
Right.
And I'm not going to take a little puppy into thick cover on long walks. But if they're big enough to get around somewhere, I feel they got a chance to get into some. Take them.
Worth taking them on the trip.
Take them.
Even if it's an hour.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. No gun if they're not had that done yet.
Just don't bring the gun with you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You've probably sacrificed a few hunting hours to
Tons.
run a young dog.
I've never been, and I don't understand it. These guys, I'm not a leave the pup at home guy because he's not ready to hunt. There's always something that can further that dog's development.
The travel.
Whether it's, camp life or going on the road trip or learning, I call it patience training. Yeah, learning that it ain't always your turn when we pull up to a spot. You're going to wait here while we go out and hunt with one of the older dogs and come out.
He won't be like that dog that barks at the other dog when it's out.
Because if they grow up like that, that's just life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you don't really have to complete anything. Just do what's appropriate to the age and experience of the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good luck, Brandon. Adam writes, if it's not too late, hoping that the UPT recap would be a good rundown of where the dog is at. Oh, okay. He was in a utility preparatory test. I should have read this one ahead of time, Justin. Good tips and tricks to get your dog not to drop the duck and shake. He'll pick up the bird 50 to 75% of the time, finish the retrieve without commands. He's not a bumper-driven dog. Tends to be more complete. He's not bumper-driven and tends to be more complete with bumper work than wild birds. I'm confused on that one. I might have to hit the pause button and reread that one. I don't think that's. I'm gonna try it again.
Is that the end of it?
Yeah. Well, there's other line of sight. You know what, Adam? I am gonna because I don't want to get too deep into UPT testing and everything on this.
I'm glad this one's in your court.
See what I mean, people? Just go hunt.
Go.
I got to get through this first part. Good tips or tricks to get your dog not to drop a duck and shake. Well, that would be a well-formed trained retrieve. I mean, that's what the whole trained retrieve is for, to not drop a duck.
Is this a young dog?
2.5 years old. So he's certainly old enough to possibly have gone through trained retrieve.
I think it's pretty natural for a dog without that formal training.
Oh yeah,
to drop a bird when they shake off.
Shake off, and then they'll pick it back up.
Yeah.
Unless she's trained for it, I wouldn't expect more. But he says he will pick the bird up 50 to 75% of the time and finish retrieve without any commands. He's just not polished them up, I guess. I think.
Is that a problem?
It's going to knock It's going to knock a point off the score because they want it presented to hand and no dilly dallying.
So okay.
Yeah.
So
if the dog drops the bird, it's supposed to be dropped into your hand. So
right. Well, he says it picks it back up and brings it.
Picks
in.
it back
so
up.
A little nick for dropping it when they shake.
And then they'll watch it do it again. Like, the dog's got a problem. This is a different one. Yeah, I don't want to. This isn't a training question. I'm gonna write Adam back.
Okay.
And go now because he's got one he's thinking about the future invitational. But here's what I'm going to say about this, Adam. You're already thinking about the invitational test. Think about this coming hunting season. That's, I always feel like the people who have a dog and their whole goal is already.
He's not going to the invitational
this year, no.
Right.
But he's already got sentences and questions about it.
It's good to have a goal.
It's good to have a goal, but
one step at a time.
One step at a time. Yeah. 2.5 years old. I don't think a dog's ready for that till he's about 6.
What would you say, because you've been involved in that so long, what's the average age of the dog in the
invitational?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess it would be 5 or 6.
Yeah. So, I see.
But there's a plenty of the opposites.
Yeah.
And there's a plenty of the 7/8s.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to say 5.
Like in the wild bird cover dog trials, grouse and woodcock.
Yeah.
Okay. When you look at that top tier, those, the championships, right? If you look at the dogs that are contenders there.
Right.
5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7.
Right.
There's always the outlier.
Sure.
Right? One early gets an early win somewhere.
Yeah, and usually the dog had it's a great dog.
Right.
But there were also some 5, 6, 7-year-olds that just had some bad luck that trial.
Right.
Something didn't happen right for them, right? Everything.
Right.
But consistently, that's when those, and that's true, I think, of
that
all these dogs. So that's their prime.
And I can't stress to people enough that do the versatile testing. If you don't hunt your dog to the amount of level that you train it, I don't find that a good balance for the dog.
No.
I really don't.
No.
I think I'd put every effort I could into hunting whenever I could, if it's something you can do somewhat in your backyard, and then wait for spring to do some training with your buddies and see where your dog's at.
It's tough. So many people, it's life. They live in a place that it requires travel, but they can get pen birds and go to training grounds and do that.
Right.
And it's difficult, but you're right. You got to keep that balance in your dog and develop those real world skills. These dogs are smart, and they figure out this is a phony baloney thing you're doing with me here. Okay,
they absolutely do.
Yeah, and
you'll see the worst behaviors sometimes.
Sure. Because what you're doing is abnormal.
Right.
You're warping these instincts because you're putting them in an abnormal situation repeatedly over and over. So what you're getting, instead of the natural progression of these hunting instincts, you're getting these weird things happening because of the situation.
If you were hunting.
No, it never would have happened.
And if you were hunting and the dog came up and dropped a duck at the boat, you grabbed the duck and threw it in there. Hey, I got a mallard. Who cares?
It's what my uncle did. Yeah, done. Got him. We're eating him. Right. Yeah.
All right, this is our last one. This is kind of a doozy.
Oh, no, we got a couple more.
Oh, no.
Here.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. This one from Kyle. I'm doing great with my little pup. She's about to turn 10 weeks on Saturday. This was dated August 17th, just let you know.
So that was a couple days ago.
A couple days ago.
Yeah.
10 weeks.
Okay.
He goes on to say how much he likes her. She's been howling in the crate. I've got a crate. I got a Dakota crate with a liner that keeps the dog in a smaller crate. Basically, it's like a dividing wall, which I thought was a great idea that they did that. Haven't had any accidents yet. I haven't had any accidents yet in the kennel, but she hates going in, and I was hoping you'd have some help there. She passes out in about 10 to 15 minutes if you ignore her, but it can definitely be a long time when I'm trying to pass out at 10 o'clock after she wakes me up at 3 in the morning that day. So it sounds like she's just making a lot of noise in her crate. But he says, hates going in. Hate going in and hate staying in? Because that's a little, one's like pushing it in and trying to hold the nose and close the door on your hand, and the other is getting her in there, closing the door, and the dog going barking for 20 minutes. I mean,
what else is there?
Well,
looks pretty long from here.
It is.
But let's, in the interest of getting a complete picture here, let's
okay.
stay with it.
I'm not sure what to do. Also, not sure what to do about going for a walk with a leash when she has it on. She's constantly biting at it. And I'm assuming that's part of the teething process. But I do not get her to chew on everything. But how do I get her to not chew on everything in sight? That's a little, like I said, there's a little bit of that. Just chewing. It's a 10-week-old puppy. Or do I keep shoving the puppy bumper in front of her and let her break herself out of it? I've been focusing on potty training, crate training, and teaching her name, but I'm not sure where to go from here.
I'm going to say something. Yeah. There is nowhere to go from there right now.
Right now.
This is a a true infant.
Right.
Okay? Yeah.
He just got done drinking milk 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He just nailed it right there. Crate training, potty training, and I'm your new best buddy.
Right. I mean, unless he had to walk this dog outside of an apartment, I could suggest don't let them drag the leash.
Yeah, drag a little short,
hard
light
for 'em.
leash.
Let them hard.
If they want to carry it in their mouth, fine.
Great, but he's chewing on it while you're walking with him.
Let him carry it if he wants
Let him
right
carry
now. I get it. If he's got a road or something, right?
Then he
doesn't
has to have it on a leash.
let it drag that leash, and that way you got something you can go grab and step on to save its life.
Right.
But yeah, you shouldn't be walking leash in hand all the time with a 10-week-old puppy.
No, that's when you should have puppy walks, and then
You don't need much room with a 10-week-old
No,
puppy.
it's just a baby.
And
Yeah.
everything you described with a crate,
Right.
normal.
right.
Normal. Was he okay? Let's just say maybe this breeder let him go at 7 weeks.
Okay, let's
instead
say.
of 8. So still 3 weeks. Still not in crazy land. 10 minutes of fussing.
That's not a lot.
Not that.
Just because your
normal.
friend's dog might have settled down in
Yeah.
2 nights, it's got It's just almost like
So everything is pretty normal. He doesn't
right.
have. Yeah.
There's really nothing to worry about here so far, Kyle. Although I will say, I'm going to scold this guy's NAVDA chapter here in this next sentence. I will say I'm very lucky with the NAVDA chapter I'm part of because we put her on a dead quail last week and got a point as soon as she smelled it. I did a tracking test in the backyard with the same bird, and she was doing good until some distractions became too much. And tomorrow, I'll be putting her on a couple of pigeons to really get that stuff to stick. I think we're going to do some gun work too. So if I can release this podcast tonight,
If it wasn't for the front end of this, I'd be like, I hope he meant 10 months old.
you mean a typo as opposed to 10 weeks?
It's insane to me.
Yes.
And I suppose there's puppies that it'll let you. Okay, no worse for the wear. Hey, everybody's got their own way.
Right.
I don't know anybody who I really respect that person as a dog man or woman.
Right.
And their ability to raise.
You've met a few of them in your life.
Yes, right? Mm-hmm. None of them do that.
None
of them, ever.
It's just like
never.
Nobody does this.
Zero. Okay?
Less than 0.
Yes. So, but to each his own,
Right.
it's not the only way. But, I feel like, listen, like 9 out of 10 things that could happen are bad.
Right.
Why would you
Right.
shake them up and roll the dice like that?
I mean,
for what?
I think we're going to try some gun work too. Kyle, I don't want you to.
And a live bird.
Kyle, I would love you to call me because.
Yes.
And I will scold whoever the appropriate persons are that put this into your head. When Justin has been around these dogs for damn near 40 years, he's getting so old. You still don't have much gray on you, though, Justin. That's
a little bit. I got a little bit.
Very little. 10 weeks.
I mean, it's an indicator of the way
people are pushing themselves.
And I think there's a lot of contributing factors to that, but I don't understand where it's coming from. And when people look to other people for guidance, they just go with whatever. Okay,
right?
Yeah. So I can't imagine anybody of any experience going, yeah.
You want to put your dog on some pigeons tomorrow?
Some birds, yeah.
Hey, should we bring the gun?
Well, shoot. Yeah. It's all risk, no reward.
Yeah.
And a 10-week-old puppy is an infant.
Yeah.
Should be all exposure to the world, but not the hunting world. Yeah. Just
the world.
Just the routine. He hit it on there. Great training, potty training, and I love you, little puppy.
That's it.
Yeah. I have an 11-week-old puppy right now.
Right.
I'm just smitten with this little gal. She's wonderful. Guess what I'm doing? That. Yep. That's
crate
it.
training.
Yep. Crate training, potty training.
When that guy said about getting the dog in the crate, which it was hard to tell if it was in the crate or after he leaves the crate, but something I know that you put in the Upland Institute was feeding those puppies in their crate.
I'm feeding this little puppy 3 times a day. Her puppy meals are all coming in the crate.
In the crate.
Okay, she's 11 weeks old. I've had her for 3 weeks.
Right.
I get her anywhere near that crate and open the door. Here we go.
Because you were the first, you showed me that 3 years ago.
I thought everybody did it.
No.
I thought everybody did it.
No.
Yeah. And then you walk away.
Right.
So I can hear her a lot of times because it's summertime. I got my windows open, both at home on the porch where I keep my puppy crate, and then
truck crate,
house crate, and then all my puppies they come home with me, right? And so anyway, I'll hear when she finishes her meal, she fusses a little bit. I'm gone by then, right? I'm not standing around in front of that crate going, "Oh, don't you wish you were out here playing with me?"
Right,
No,
right.
I'm gone. I
Right.
got other stuff to do, right?
So you'll make sure your dog had a little walk before that.
Yep.
And because they don't typically have to defecate as soon as they eat, it's after they run.
Yeah.
So as long as you
Make
saw
sure
the
they
dog,
emptied out good.
they emptied up their bladder, feed them in the crate,
Yep.
close the door,
Yep, and leave.
and walk away.
Leave. And don't have that crate in a part of your home where there's a lot of stimulus.
Right.
Don't put it in your bedroom.
No.
No. Put it in a nice, quiet place.
Right.
Okay, so that might
Like
help
the
him with his
sliding
crate
door
training.
that you don't use a lot over by the back room or something.
Yeah, I love his thing about how the little divider in there
Right.
to make so you don't have to buy a puppy crate and then an adult dog crate.
Right.
A divider that makes your future permanent crate appropriate for puppies.
Right.
Brilliant. Whoever
Right.
thought of that.
Yep.
So that's great, but the little whining and stuff is normal.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
try the feeding in there, but
Yeah.
please maybe. You know, sometimes people get a second opinion when a doctor tells them something like, "Hey, I don't know about that," right?
Right.
I think
Can't they just get acupuncture instead of chemotherapy?
Anybody advising live birds and gunfire intro tomorrow, which actually that would have been like maybe it's already happened.
Yeah, maybe the
Yeah.
dog's already been shot over.
Yeah.
Well,
you might want a second opinion on
Right.
that. In my opinion.
Yeah, no,
my 2 cents is probably all it's worth.
I don't think so.
we don't need to train these dogs to like birds.
That's a genetic.
It's there.
It's in their genes.
It's there. But you can spook a puppy at that age. Even just that smell. Ooh, something alive in there. I see that reaction sometimes with 4-month-old dogs that have been walked in the field.
Right.
And they still sometimes are a little unsure of this other live thing
That makes that
in this world.
That
You gotta
explosive
remember,
type noise.
they've just been on this earth for a teeny bit of time, and they have not been around all that. So I think it's all risk and
no
zero reward. Why would you do it?
That's a good thing that you could give for a training T-shirt. when somebody leaves your kennel, I've successfully learned one thing from my trainer, Justin McGrail. All risk, no reward. All right. Hi, Ron. My name is Nick Giller. My question is, what is the best way when you're introducing a new dog or pup to birds if you don't have a bird launcher or another person to help you train in the field? Will show you the point, or another person. My sense. I must need a cigar, but I must be having nicotine relapse. Let me start that one over. What is the best way when you're introducing a new dog or pup to birds if you don't have a bird launcher or other person to help you train in the field? The dog will show point. You have a check cord on the dog, but then of course you have to flush it. By the time you flush it, by the time you flush the bird, it jumps in and it gets on top of the bird, shows a couple seconds point, and then jumps in. So what he's saying, like, what's the best way to introduce a new dog or pup to birds? I mean, there's more to it.
Well, let's make sure we don't miss something pertinent here.
Yeah, like an experience here.
Well, it sounds like he's done this.
It sounds like
it's pretty descriptive. Yeah, he's got a pretty what you could expect from a puppy on a bird.
I didn't see there was no capital letter here, so there's a second question here. What is a good technique if you don't have a launcher or a second hand or person to help you keep your dog steady long enough for you to flush the birds so they don't get used to jumping in on the bird or moving in once they see you moving? Mm-hmm. What is a good technique to teach them to point just a little longer? That's called steadiness if it's in the presence of the handler, right? At that point?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I know where he's going. Yeah. I do.
Okay.
And I don't think it's trained steadiness. I think I'm reading this right.
Move in on the bird after a short point is best to launch a bird or attempt to flush the bird to help with holding points holding points longer and to show that the bird will get away if they just jump right in after so they don't pounce. So they don't. Boy, he punctuates worse than me. It's not all my fault.
It's not.
It's not just the nicotine.
No.
deprivation I'm going through here.
He gets a 1 in grammar.
Yeah,
if this
I'm sorry, Nick. Great question. Poor sentence structure.
I think I got the gist of it, though. There.
Trying to get your dog and simulate the flush and work on steadiness all at the same time.
Yeah. And what he alludes to, the principle that he's trying to replicate, is not formal train steadiness, but imprinting in that dog that when I move from my initial point,
right,
that scares him, puts him up.
Right.
I feel that's a critical concept for a young dog to learn, right? They will very much naturally learn that with exposure to wild birds.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I got a little too close and that scared him.
Yep.
I think he's trying to do it with the wrong tools. You know, he says in there, he's trying to use, like, I need somebody to go in and get that bird out of there. And he says something about launchers. To me, launchers are for steadiness work. I don't want a hunk of stinky bird smelling metal in there. We've all seen those puppies hit that hot spot of scent and jump in there and pounce. I don't want them to get a face full of metal when they do that. So what's your other option? Hold them back on a cord. I don't want to do that either.
Right.
I want a loose game bird that's a good flying bird. So that if they're good enough flying birds, you can just let them come into them very naturally.
Happens here.
Pre-seeded area with birds, run him, let him find them, point. When he goes to go in there, there they go. Let him go. Okay?
Yeah.
He just learned something. Chuckers. Pen-raised chuckers. Need to be used with caution.
Right.
First of all, okay, we touched on this earlier. Healthy, strong flying, good. But then chuckers often do not want to fly. They need to be prompted to fly.
Yeah.
When you're solo, okay, I have to do what this guy's trying to do every year because April and May, that's like all you can get around here in Michigan is chuckers to introduce dogs to birds. I don't like launchers. I don't want this mechanical gizmo springing in front of a puppy and all that. So oftentimes you're not trying to get this dog to be steady. When that pup breaks point, you don't want your bird in too thick a cover. Just slightly hold them up enough so they don't catch it, right? And get that bird up and out of there.
Yep.
And then, and watch that bird. If he's going to give you a nice, long, strong flight, drop the cord and let him chase. It's the best you can do.
Yeah.
If you can't provide some sort of good bird contact, and it's a puppy that's not ready for formal steadiness, which no pre-first season puppies, I feel, are, just wait. I mean, assume you're hunting something somewhere. You bought this dog. Wait. That's okay if that's what you can give them later.
Right.
Worry about something else. But everything you do with a young dog and exposure to birds should have a purpose. You should have a clear thing in mind what you're trying to accomplish. And if you can realistically say, I can't give a dog this right now, then wait.
Right.
And work on something else.
You said something earlier that just made a light come back on. It can be very cumbersome, right? Check cord, holding the dog back, you got no one to help you.
Yeah.
But you said something about those 16 or 14-week-old pheasants.
13, 14,
Right, that the one that's not ready to be let go to preserve yet, you're buying them from a breeder.
Rooster's got a little color on him. You can tell them from the hens. But
And there's a bird that typically will fly out of your dog's life.
Puppies aren't going to catch those.
Right.
We're going to show tag us some as soon as we're done here today. I've been saving the honey hole for him.
Oh, no. He's catching his chuckers, but
he won't catch it.
But no, isn't that, wouldn't that be something like you've said so many times, and I've quoted you to other people, do something else and wait for a quality bird experience.
Yep.
And if you can do the research and you can figure out where to buy launchers and check cords, find a pheasant farm, try to buy some of them that they're at that age, find yourself a training field or wherever you can go. That way you can take that equation out of launchers.
Launchers are for steadiness. For teaching finished manners, which is not what you do with puppies.
No,
they're not for introduction to birds.
Yep.
Okay. Now, again, 4 or 5 things that can happen are bad. Right? So let's not put our pup in that situation. And cost-wise, I think the next one, the guy I had those two sitting together because they both kind of have the same. Hey, I don't have launchers, but I'm kind of trying to do something with.
Tip. Okay, yeah. This will be it. So we're gonna wrap it up with Brad's question. I live in northern New York, close to the Canadian border. 10-month-old Brittany, my first bird dog. We've been going to a local trainer who follows the Smith method, which is very popular, right? Lots of obedience work through last winter, which led to check cording into birds and wool post in the spring. We were able to go to the GDIY, Gun Dog It Yourself training camp in May, but I haven't been able to train much after that through the summer, except for some backyard obedience and steadiness. So question, there was just a lot of other data there. What are the best ways to work your dog on pigeons with only tip-ups? Now, for people who don't know, just in case, it's just a little half size of a volleyball wire hoop. Looks like a wire volleyball. And it's got a little handle on it like a frying pan handle, and you step on the handle, which tilts it up and lets the bird just for a couple newbies there. I mean, he knows what a tip-up is. Yeah. I'm planning on making some homemade tip-ups. A lot of people have, to save on cash, but I'm worried about my dog rushing in before I'm able to release that, which is another cumbersome thing to do, like you could do with a launcher. Is the only answer to use a check cord and a partner? I'm assuming that you do not like to introduce the e-collar at all during this situation to stop the dog, because, this is not he's not talking about steadying up the dog.
No,
Even though he's 10 months old, if he's 10 months old now, he didn't have last winter hunting season.
No, right.
He was born last winter.
Yeah.
So, and he's right. I'm assuming that you don't like to introduce the e-collar in this situation. No. Since it's a point and steadiness problem, not a wool problem. Any suggestions? All right. Work a dog on tip-ups?
Certainly not. I don't feel it's the right tool for what he's trying to do right now. We're third weekend, August 20th or something today.
Right.
Okay, he lives in northern New York.
Yep.
He's not far from grouse season.
No.
Right?
Right.
Okay, that's where I'd be going.
Right.
Go to the woods, preseason, whatever.
Yeah.
That's your best bird work you can give that dog right now. If you are going to utilize those tools, that's when the dog is ready to be steadied, which is you are not going to steady that dog in the next month.
No.
Nor should you try. Okay?
No.
Hunt him, and then next year come up with your plan. The whole, I get it. Remote launchers are not cheap.
No.
However, the whole deal here is being able to control the timing of the flush.
Right.
Right now. That dog moves, boom, he's up. Okay,
Yeah.
You can't get that with a tip-up and by yourself and you're going to make a mess.
Right.
You're going to make a mess, So I can sympathize with people, You're better off to use good flying game birds. And that dog goes, and then the bird goes, and then you stop him. Yeah. Whoa. Everything in steadiness goes really good if you build it on stop to flush.
Right.
Don't correct that dog with a bird on the ground. Now we're delving into next year for this guy, steadiness, right? Don't leave that bird on the ground with a dog wanting to jump in. When he wants to jump in, that bird needs to go, and now you stop him.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you get into this, that's where dogs get weird, and that's where steadiness, and you can leave a training scar, is that bird sitting there under his tip-up, and the dog keeps moving, and he keeps correcting and bringing it back. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Maybe like dog clubs have launchers, right? Or something.
If you could join one.
They're expensive.
Right.
Little training groups or something.
To your point, I've hunted up close to the Canadian border. There's grouse and woodcock both up there.
Yeah.
And I don't know what New York state laws are, but he could be in the woods today with his dog. Today as we speak, August 20th.
Yeah. And I don't know if people think they have
not with a gun,
to do
Mike.
this.
Not with a gun.
No, right. But just train it.
Right.
The dog's not going to learn anything bad. And
right.
You got to work with what you have at hand. So if launchers are not in remote launchers are not in the picture. You can use anything once the job is done.
Right.
Because your dog's going to stay put. It's in that process that we got to be careful.
Right.
Right? So remember that. Dog goes in, we need a bird that comes up.
Right.
We can't have a bird stuck under
A net, or a foothold,
yeah, or whatever.
battery's not working on your launcher.
Something.
Because your timing's all gone and everything's a mess.
Yeah. So you'd be better off sticking with good game birds or pop for good launchers. Maybe you and a buddy can go in on them. If you got another dog coming, okay, you can justify it a little bit there. You're only going to use them for a window of the dog's life.
Yeah.
If you're a guy who is good at this stuff, you can probably resell them when you're done and your dog's finished. There's always a guy just like you waiting to buy them who doesn't quite want to pay retail.
Right. That's true.
So
That's true. So
think of it that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Find a training buddy or just plan on reselling some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I just sold an old launcher to Randy Herline the other day.
There you go.
Got $100.
There. Felt good, didn't it? It was like pennies from heaven.
I think it's all dusty on the wall. I didn't even know if it worked.
Yeah.
All right, and his second question is the same dog. Will be just under a year. I plan, come September, I plan to take him into the woods for grouse and woodcock. We have introduced hold and carry, but have not progressed further into the force fetch part or the second part of the trained retrieve. I'm convinced he has zero natural ability in him. I'm assuming he's talking about retrieving. Right.
Yeah, instinct.
So besides ensuring that he has a proper exposure to gunfire prior to the season, which is great to do that, what suggestions do you have for bringing a young dog into the field who does not yet retrieve?
Yeah. Hunt him.
I knew that was your answer.
You knew it was. Well, first of all, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Right.
Okay? What are you going to do? And, see what's in that. It's that also, just like pointing, is in their genetic package, right?
All different levels of it.
Because he assumes that he doesn't think anything is there, it lends you to think he's throwing some stuff for it, and he's not seeing
Or maybe
much.
somebody gave him a dead bird, and that wasn't exciting.
Yeah,
who knows?
could be.
We don't have enough data, but
But a polished retrieve is far from a necessary prerequisite to go hunt. It's going to be what it's going to be.
Right.
And he's going to learn on the job. And I'm also glad he mentioned, aside from making sure your introduction to gunfire is thorough. Okay. Every year, guys convince themselves he'll be fine. I mean, their introduction to the gun.
But how many guys did they train with?
Was superficial. And some guys, it's even just, I was smacking 2x4s together while they were eating.
And then I took one shot.
Yeah, or a blank when they were chasing a bird or something.
Yep.
And there are dogs that let you get away with it. And there's dogs that you're going to get burned.
Right.
Multiple guys. They didn't have their eyes on the bird.
2-3 people all shooting at the same bird.
Or the dog wasn't involved with. So since we're at that time of year, everybody with a first season dog, make sure you're sure.
Make sure you're sure.
Make sure you're sure. And if you're not sure, only do what you feel your dog is ready for. Tell your hunting partners, hey, this is his maiden voyage, okay?
Right.
So here's the rules. Err on the side of caution.
Yeah.
There are dogs out there that let you get away with all kinds of stuff you shouldn't do.
And you don't know it because they were just
you got away with it.
They were bulletproof, so to speak.
They got away with it. Right? But every year my phone rings after hunting season starts, and it's a guy who thought he was okay, and he wasn't. Turned out he wasn't.
Right.
So
proof it.
Make sure you're sure.
Make sure you're sure.
And only give them what they're ready for
Right.
in the world of gunfire, because that's the one we can work with just about anything else and come out of it with some kind of a huntable, enjoyable buddy out in the field. That thing gets going bad on you, it's over.
Right.
It can be absolutely
because
over.
Obviously that dog that's, I don't want to say predisposed, but maybe not as tough as another dog, that it's not bulletproof. If that's a dog that could have been okay in the right hands with slow exposure and slowly added into noise, he's also the same dog that the wrong exposure would sink his ship.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So it's that time of year. I think that was, since he kind of alluded to it, it was worth emphasizing for guys with these dogs that are going to be having their very first real hunting experiences. Just because he was okay chasing a pigeon with a blank at a training field last week does not mean he's okay for full-blown heat of battle, multiple shotgun gunfire, which guys get in those situations.
It could happen. Maybe not if him and one guy go prairie chicken hunting.
Yeah.
But if he goes to some place in South Dakota for
Tall
a pheasant
weeds,
place,
yep.
and, yeah, I had a dog. You remember a dog I had?
Mm-hmm.
He was gun shy twice because he wasn't ready for the second time I took him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finally got rid of that, and he died on me. Son of a gun. All right, Justin, thank you so much. I know you're down to 10 days before you
10
leave.
10 days.
I leave. We're going to be
10
gone.
days.
So I hope this is enough Justin McGrail question and answers to get you through the season. And I wish you all the best of luck. Justin, anything else?
Nope. Let's go run your puppy.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I probably won't see you for
I won't see you
a
for
while.
Probably 4 or 5 weeks
Yeah.
at least.
So-
all right. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Sounds good.
I think you'll be surprised. Oh, God, I hope so.